This is Weinkrantz. I'm here today at CES at the NBC Universal Booth. I'm here with Ben Grossman.
Hi there.
And Ben, you're a digital strategist with Oxford Communications.
The communication strategist with Oxford, yeah.
And we met at the Brands Conference, one of Jeff Halter's events.
Yes, we did in New York.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
And some of the messages you delivered at Brands Conf and some of the initiatives you might be working on.
Sure, well, like you said, I work for an agency, Oxford Communications, and at Oxford I really have a heavy focus on social media, but also socializing traditional advertising. So what I spoke at the Brands Conf about was the humanization of brands, which is what the entire conference is about. And my specific talk was about different avenues that companies have explored to humanize their brands, and how there are several different ways to do it. Everything from having an individual represent your brand through social media to a crowdsourcing initiative like 12 Force from Best Buy. So what that talk was about was basically the fact that different forms of humanization are right for different brands. What happens when a human is the face of your brand and that human has the power to leave your company? It gets a little bit dicey.
Right.
So the really interesting thing about that talk, and I posted about it on my blog and got some really great feedback from different people in the community afterwards, is that the humanization of brands is something that's huge here at CES. So then coming to CES and really looking at what brands are doing to engage influencers like you and me and gather people who will have an impact on consumers around their booths, you really start to see the payoff of those that are human. Because this is a very human event, there are people all around us, and people are looking to engage with other people. So you're really starting to see a payoff.
Some advice. CEO who has nothing to do with strategic communications is watching this and says we need to do something about humanizing our brand. Just a few suggestions, and then of course how to get a hold of you.
Sure, well, I'd really suggest looking at it strategically and for the long term. So coming up with what your brand would look like as a human is really the first step. So if I were to meet a human being and it was going to be the human embodiment of my brand, what would their name be? What would they act like? What would they look like? How would they talk? That's really the first step. Then figuring out a way to embody that within an individual, within a group of individuals, or just as a newly aligned corporate voice is really the next step. So it definitely needs to be looked at to be sustainable in the long term, and that's why sometimes having it run completely by one person isn't the right choice. So I talk about it a lot on my blog. It's at www.ben-grossman.com. I'm on Twitter as @BenGrossman. And here at here at the CES, I am working on a project called the CES Social Report.
Yeah, I saw you're doing things that the CES Show isn't even doing.
Well, we're trying to aggregate all the activity from exhibitors here who are using social media. So there's a lot of different initiatives around. There are tons of parties here. There are tons of booths with social people inside them. There are tons of Twitter presences, tons of people on Facebook, tons of people walking by. And at CESSocialReport.com, we're attempting to catalog all of that. And then in the end, we'll release a report that's all about social media use by exhibitors at CES and the payoff it has. So it should be really fun.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan.
This is Weinkrantz at the CES Show, and thank you, NBC Universal, for letting us be here today.
It's a beautiful piece of